Well, Merry Christmas Eve, everybody. Tomorrow's Christmas. Are you excited? I am. I'm excited. Well, today we're in John chapter 18. And in John chapter 18, there are some really cool things that happen. Uh, First of all, Judas betrays Jesus. That's how the chapter opens. And they come looking for Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and they come in the middle of the night, and there's a whole crowd of people that show up looking for him. And if you read carefully in John chapter 18, in verse 6, there's a really cool thing that happens. Jesus knows what they're doing. He knows who they're coming for. And so Jesus asks the question, who are you looking for? And they say, we're looking for Jesus the Nazarene. And Jesus says, well, I am he. But look carefully at verse 6 at what happens. When Jesus says, I am he, it says they drew back and fell to the ground. The very acknowledgement of Christ and who he is causes them to fall to the ground. A whole cohort of Roman soldiers and an angry mob, when Jesus says, I am he, they fall to the ground. There's power in that. Now, if I was one of those Roman soldiers, I would have got up and ran away. But they didn't. They went ahead and arrested Jesus. And then they take Jesus to Annas, who's the what is he? He's a relative. He's the son-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest. Now, I want to remind you that way back early in this whole story, when Jesus went into the temple and there were all the money changers, and Jesus chased the money changers out of the temple with a whip and threw over the tables, and Jesus was really ticked off. The story is that Annas was in charge of all of that. And so Jesus disrupted his income, right? So, man, the arrest of Jesus, there was some greed behind all of that too. People were mad that Jesus took away their source of greed, their money, their wealth. So he appeared before Annas first, then Caiaphas. Then they take him to Pilate. And in the midst of all of this, Peter is denying Jesus. Peter denies him 3 times throughout this chapter. And then Jesus stands before Pilate, and Pilate wants to know if he's a king or not. And Jesus says in verse 36, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then my servants would be fighting so that I would not be handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not of this realm. If I was to summarize this whole chapter, I would say that the power of God doesn't show up in his fight. The power of God shows up in his presence. Because at no point is Jesus fighting. Just the presence of him, of Christ, causes people to fall to the ground. Peter tries to fight and Jesus stops him. Jesus doesn't fight when he goes before Annas. When he's before Annas, he says, why are you asking me about all this stuff? Why don't you just ask the people that have heard me speak and go get their testimony? He's not fighting. He's not defending himself. Yet I see in chapter 18 just this magnificent display of power that doesn't come in the form of a fight. It just simply comes from his presence. And I love that. I love knowing that, because in our culture, in our world, we always think that power is displayed in our might and in our fight and how much we can conquer. But Jesus, as he always does, flips that and says it's not in the fight. It's not what you conquer. It's in his presence. His presence, his very presence, is more power than anyone can handle or imagine. I mean, think about it. We're getting ready to celebrate Christmas tomorrow, the birth of Christ. And the very birth of Christ displayed a magnificent power of God that disrupted the world. When people heard that Jesus was being born, people came from all over the world to see him. That's powerful presence. It was a baby. What can a baby possibly do, right? Herod was ordering babies to be killed because he was afraid of what Jesus might do. This was a baby. Ever since Jesus has come into the world, his presence, his very presence, has made his power known. Man, I just tell you what, the very presence of God in your life can be transformative, is transformative. The very presence of God in your life displays power and gives you magnificent power. Acknowledge God today and just be in his presence, because there's power there. Guys, God bless you. I hope you have a great Christmas Eve, and see you tomorrow on Christmas for John chapter 19. We'll see you later.